In a world that screams for your attention, there's a place that invites you to peace. You don't need a building. You don't need a choir. You just need to turn your heart to Air One.
Air One. Songs that heal. Lyrics that pray for you when you don't have the words.
From Lauren Daigle to Elevation Worship and more.
This isn't just radio. It's worship for the everyday.
Escape the noise and worship now.
Download the Air One app. Ask your smart speaker to play Air One or visit air1.com. Air One. Worship now.
Each week on Culinary Confidential, Christina Cates, a seasoned foodie who has worked at some of New York City's top restaurants, will share her passion for the culinary world. Whether you're a professional chef, a restaurant enthusiast, or a lover of good food, Christina dives into the heart of hospitality, exploring the trends, triumphs, and challenges facing the food service profession. And you won't want to miss her chats with some of the most interesting and influential industry voices. And now, please take your seat at the table as Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates starts now, exclusively on AM 970, The Answer.
Good evening and welcome to Culinary Confidential. I'm Christina Cates, and tonight we continue our month-long Americana series celebrating America's 250th anniversary, a tribute to the people, traditions, stories, hard work, creativity, and culture that continue to shape this country from coast to coast. This show is produced in association with my dear friend, Lucas A. Ferrara. I have to tell you, this series has become so much more than food and beverage. It's become a conversation about identity and pride. And tonight's show may be one of the most uniquely American conversations we've had yet. Because this evening, we're talking about cowboys, patriots, artists, rebels, tradition keepers, and people who wear their love for this country unapologetically and authentically. We spend so much time today moving fast, scrolling fast, reacting fast, consuming fast, that sometimes we forget there are still people out there building things with their hands, standing for something bigger than themselves, and preserving pieces of Americana that deserve to be remembered. Tonight's guests represent two very different worlds, but they are connected by one common thread, a deep love for America and the spirit that built it. First, we'll be joined by Scott LoBaido, artist, activist, provocateur to say the least, but absolute patriot at his core, a man whose canvas has become the literal American flag itself. Scott has spent decades creating massive patriotic art installations, supporting veterans, honoring first responders, and using art to spark conversation about freedom, sacrifice, and national pride. Whether you agree with him, disagree with him, or lie somewhere in between, one thing is undeniable. He is passionate about this country. And in a time where so many people are afraid to stand for anything at all, there's something fascinating about someone who plants their flag firmly in the ground and says, "This is who I am." We'll talk about patriotism through the lens of art. You may be wondering why I have an artist on the Culinary Show, and you know what? Food is art, so why not? We'll talk about what it means to love your country in modern America, why symbols matter, why storytelling matters, and why preserving American spirit and identity matters now more than ever. Then, later in the show, we head out west, cowboy country, if you will, with the legendary Kent Rollins. Now, if you don't know Kent Rollins yet, let me paint the picture for you. He's a real cowboy, a chuck wagon cook, ranch hand, cast iron master, one of the last true ambassadors of the American cowboy way of life. Kent represents something deeply rooted in this country: simplicity, toughness, hospitality, hard work, faith, family, fire, and food cooked under an open sky. And honestly, the cowboy may be one of the greatest American symbols ever created. The cowboy wasn't glamorous. The cowboy was resourceful, independent, and the cowboy solved problems, took care of people, worked before sunrise, and stayed long after sunset. And through food, whether it was beans over a fire, cast iron biscuits, or coffee in the middle of nowhere, there was always hospitality. That's what fascinates me so much about tonight's show. Even though Scott LoBaido and Kent Rollins come from entirely different backgrounds, both of them are preserving pieces of Americana that feel increasingly rare in today's world. One does it through art, one does it through cowboy culture and food, but both are protecting legacy. And that's really what this month has been about. Over the last few weeks on this program, we've explored the culinary time capsule of America with chef and culinary historian Jay Reifel, veteran food security and supporting our first responders with celebrity chef and philanthropist Robert Irvine, and next week we talk prohibition with Noah Rothbaum back on the show. But tonight is about spirit, the American spirit, the spirit to create, build, endure, and disagree. And the spirit to dream bigger, the spirit to love this country while still believing it can evolve and improve. Because patriotism doesn't have to be political, and we too often make it that way. Sometimes patriotism is simply preserving craftsmanship. It's supporting small towns and ranchers. It's flying a flag. It's cooking for people you love. It's protecting tradition in a world obsessed with trends. And sometimes it's simply being grateful for the opportunity to wake up every day and pursue the life you want to create. So tonight, we celebrate the artists, the cowboys, the storytellers, the makers, the ranchers, the risk takers, the free thinkers, and the people who still believe there's something special about America, because there is. This is Americana on Culinary Confidential, and this is going to be one incredible ride tonight. Okay, let's get started. I'm pleased to welcome activist, patriot, and one of America's most recognizable artists, Scott LoBaido, to the show. It's been so long since I've seen you, and I do have to thank my good friend Sala Dragna from Staten Island for bringing us together many, many moons ago, probably 10 plus years. If I'm not mistaken, though, Scott, I think I met you at the Palm in Tribeca when I was the GM there. And tell me, how's life going for you? Get arrested today? Anything new on the horizon?
Nah, I've been good for a little while.
A light day today.
Well, my probation, I think, is over for my last arrest, which was 6 months ago. So I think I'm ready to go again. But,
okay.
Only when it's necessary to
the night is
prove
young.
The righteous point that needs to be made. So,
okay, let's start with the art and how you paint the American spirit. What first drew you to using the American flag as an artistic inspiration?
I was born an artist. I tell people that, people categorize me as a patriot, as an activist, and a conservative, but I didn't become those things until later on in life when you learn about life and society and whatnot. But I was born an artist. I was always creative. And then I went to go find myself in the big city art world in Manhattan. Like you said, I'm from the exotic isle of Staten. And a lot of working class, rough, blue-blooded folks over there. And I went to go find myself in the big city. Was my niche in the art world. I'm an artist. And I saw, this is back in the early 90s, and I saw so much hatred for everything American, our flag, our military. There was a gallery at one point I walked in. Well, I didn't walk in, but they had an American flag on the floor as a welcome mat, and you had to wipe your feet on it to come into the gallery. Oh, yeah. And as an artist who understands the freedom of expression, I could not understand why this group of free people, us artists who have more freedom than anybody, we own freedom. We get to test those boundaries of the First Amendment and express ourselves as we see fit. And to see them all biting the hand that feeds them this freedom, it just blew my mind because I come from a community of working class. My father was sanitation, cops and firemen, all my family, and a lot of military veterans, World War II, Vietnam, and so on and so on. And I was blown away. I said, you know what? I'm not doing this. I don't want any part of this. I don't care how famous or rich or successful they can make me as an artist. I want no part of it. I'm going to now use my creativity to bring love, respect, and honor to the American flag, those who fought for it, and that's where it all started. And I was like pulling teeth. I was a demon. The art world just destroyed me. They wrecked me. But I knew that was coming.
Yeah.
And here I am, just last year, standing on the stage at Madison Square Garden, full house, where Frank Sinatra stood, the greatest artist stood, Elvis Presley, you name it, opening up, doing artwork for the greatest president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. So I gave a big FU to the art community that night because they said I would never be anything because of my politics, my love for country, and my conservative values, and I proved them wrong.
I would say so. What kind of art were you creating before that kind of pivotal moment?
I was really into, and I still am, I still dabble a little bit, into surrealism, Dali-esque, Magritte, abstract, fantastical stuff, horror stuff, pretty much everything. Anything. I'd be out in nature just stacking rocks and sticks, whatever I could create, I created. And then, again, the patriotism was always there because of the community we come from. Staten Island is the last of the, we're the last of it. We're the Alamo.
Yeah.
I always had that in me and stuff. So, every artist looks for a calling. You don't know what that calling is. Some people don't get it until they're in their, 80s, like Georgia O'Keeffe, that female artist who didn't find herself till she was in her 80s, late 70s. So I got lucky to get my calling at such a young age, and it was like, this is it. You're going to use your gift to preserve patriotism. You're not doing anything special. I'm no genius. I'm no Michelangelo. I'm just reproducing a work of art that was neglected through an unusual suspect, which is the artist.
So before you came in studio tonight, the operation guy, Matthew Sambolino, brought me across the way to Joe Piscopo's office, which I had never been in, which apparently you've been on his show a few times. Yeah. And there's a original Scott LoBaido artwork hanging on the wall there, which was very nice to see. So we're big supporters of Scott LoBaido on the station here. Okay, when people see your work, what do you hope they feel before they even think?
Well, a lot of the work I do is for me. You know, you learn that, you know, when you're a younger artist, you're just like, okay, I got to make money, so who's going to like this? You know, I got to do palm trees in the back of my buddy's, by his pool in the back of his yard because I need money, you know, or Scott, paint the flag when I started to do it this way, do it that way. And you do, you know, you got to survive and you also taking suggestions. But then the artist becomes the true artist where I create for me. This is my love. This is my child. I sacrifice not having children because my work is my children. My flag paintings are my children, you know. So I want people to see, and it's nice that they are appreciating what's coming out of me, you know, the patriotism and art combined.
Yeah.
You know, the activism it's relevant, but it's separate from the actual physicality of the paintings, you know, and the sculptures.
Do you consider yourself more of like a street artist rather than a gallery artist?
Well, I'm definitely not a gallery artist because there's not a gallery in the city that would ever have my work, and they never have. I've had 5,000 art shows over the last 35 years, and I always rented my own space. Galleries don't want me. You know, I'm not their cup of tea. You know, and you can't tell a Staten Island Sicilian artist what to do, what to hang, how to hang it. You know, I am not. You know, I'm me. But again, I do a lot of street art. That's where the activism comes in, and just playing as well. And you know, okay, I'm going to put a flag sculpture, a flag painting on this building right here, legally. But then the activism, like with the big middle finger sculpture, I just did.
I saw that.
You know, dropped that off at City Hall for a couple of hours.
You're at City Hall a lot. I tell you, I must have watched that one reel of you throwing pizza over the fence at City Hall a couple years ago at least 20 times.
Yeah, that was a big hit.
That was a big. I think you got arrested for that, didn't you?
I most certainly did.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Do you see the flag more as art, emotion, or identity?
To me, as the artist, one of my quotes that I use all the time is the truth that I have flirted eye to eye with the Mona Lisa at the Louvre dans Paris. I've gazed in awe at the Sistine Chapel. I've touched the thick, painful brushstrokes of a Van Gogh when I wasn't supposed to, but still, you know, you're an artist, and you know this is what you know. This is what you learn. As this is the masters. This is the greatest works of art. But to me, the greatest, most important, most beautiful work of art is the Star-Spangled Banner. It is the most recognized work of art. It is the most meaningful work of art. A lot of people don't see it as a work of art. I do. You know, the French flag is beautiful, the Italian flag, the German flag is beautiful, the Russian flag. But those flags represent each of those individual ethnicities and cultures. There's only one flag in the entire world that represents every single one of those cultures. That's the beauty of it. We are a nation of immigrants. We are everybody. We are the melting pot. You know, you come here legally. There's a system that's all screwed up right now. That's a whole other story. But that's the beauty of it. There's nothing else that means more to humanity, to me, than that work of art. And my job is just to reproduce it, celebrate it, and promote it through the gift that God gave me.
Now, does everyone see why I had Scott LoBaido on the Culinary show? We couldn't do an Americana series without Scott LoBaido. Okay, you brought art to rooftops, streets, VFW halls. Why was accessibility important?
Because, again, how I grew up, I grew into this, you know, especially in the 80s and 90s when technology started coming around. You know, I could even admit myself when I was a kid in school, ADD. I was considered bad back then but now they have everything. I would have been on every drug they have now because I'm very hyper and ADD, for this and that. And you know, the flag, and you got some veterans coming and doing this thing on stage, and you're a kid. You're thinking about, you know, this cute girl that you want to see after school, or you're going to go play with your buddy. You know, right, the flag, the grandpa and stuff. But then you grow into it and you realize, you know, oh wow, now I get it. And it's about stimulation to, these kids who've got computers in their hands and a computer and games and whatnot. They're all tied into things that aren't accessible. So how do I get them to see that flag and understand it and appreciate the freedom and love that you have or whatever by painting a visually three-dimensional, many different colors that equate to, a three-dimensional flag, the shading, the oranges, the maroons. And so when they drive by and they're like, oh, my God, Dad, look at that giant flag. What is that for? And then their father could say, that building is where the veterans hang out. Those are men and women that gave us the right to go to the game that we are on our way to go tonight. To give them. So if I capture, sorry, I get emotional. If I capture that one kid, who just sees that flag and then learns something from that and becomes somewhat of a patriot, just understand. I always say, I don't care. You don't have to be goody two-shoes. Believe me, I'm not a goody two-shoe. You got to drive around on your skateboard, smoke your pot, whatever you want to do. But don't ever forget why you can do all of these crazy things that you're allowed to do.
That's right.
It's because of those men and women under that flag that give us the right, and I'll admit to that.
Do you have a piece of art that was your proudest installation?
To answer, there's a lot of people ask me that question. There's too many. Again, these are my children. People ask, I don't have children because I made the sacrifice. Do I neglect the children? My parents were the greatest parents, and I wouldn't be able to control as the artist, as the activist, the fighter, to do the things I have to do, and I would never want to put my children or family in the mix of that. And even if neglect, if I have to travel, I have to go to this battle, using not my sword and gun and bayonet, but my paintbrush and my paints, So these are all my children. They're all special to me.
So you don't have a favorite child. Good answer.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'll say to some people. Like, you got 3 kids. Do you have a favorite? And they're like, I can't say that. I'm like, oh, there you have it.
Is there a reaction, though, from a veteran or a first responder that has stayed with you forever after they've seen one of your pieces of art?
There's actually been a lot, and it's also hard to pinpoint because there's much of that, and that's rewarding. That's my paycheck.
You go.
All my, I've struggled. I mean, I'm making some decent money with my work now because I'm closer to death, and people see time to invest in the. I know how it works. This is the nature of the beast. I give a lot of it to charity. I recycle it into the activism and stuff. But when I used to be just like, oh, thank you, that's kind of you. But now I realize that. Yeah, I did make a change, and I did make those veterans feel good. I did make that fireman feel good. I did make that cop feel good with my art.
I got to tell you, while we were waiting for you to come up tonight, we were taking the over or under on whether you were trying to bring a sculpture up the elevator with you for the show. I was like, I don't think so. I don't think he's bringing anything with him tonight, but it would have been cool. Okay, why do you think public art is so important right now? Because you're out there in the streets.
Yeah. Again, the artists, I don't think the artist gets enough credit for portraying society, current events, culture, changing, actually, history. Many artists have changed history, especially before technology. I mean, that's all it was an artist to reproduce what was going on at that time.
Yeah.
So the artist is a big player. We're not prophets, People give me too much credit sometimes in being a genius and, I did try to warn people 35 years ago about where we would be sitting right now. And again, it's not in a prophetic sense that we are visionaries. We have a different vision. And again, it's not no way better than anybody else. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite, I think. We're cursed. We're very cursed, where we see beauty, but we also see the ugliness. And we must use our art publicly to portray not only what we see and feel, but what a community sees and feels that does not have that outlet. That middle finger sculpture, why that went more viral than anything I've ever done over this life? Because that's what the moment, the community, even those who voted for him, are turning and saying, no, this is F this guy. The cops, F this guy. And that's why that public piece of art, as humorous as it may be to people, as humorous as it may be, the pizza throwing over the fence. There was the Boston Tea Party. This was the pizza.
The New York pizza party. Yeah, that's right.
Give me pizza or give me death. And as funny as it was this toss heard around the world.
Oh, hell
that
yeah.
Went worldwide, because it was what people wanted to say. Same thing with the Boston. It was, I can't compare it, historically, but yet it was relevant, and that's public art.
I love it. Okay, stay tuned. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation with Scott LoBaido, diving deeper into the crossroads of patriotism, public art, New York grit, and the stories behind the stars and stripes. You're listening to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates on AM 970 The Answer.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 55 East 59th Street, New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
Welcome back to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates on AM 970 The Answer.
Welcome back to the show. I'm joined again by Staten Island-based artist Scott LoBaido, best known for massive American flag paintings, patriotic public art, and provocative activist-style performance art. He calls himself America's artist and has spent more than 30 years painting renditions of the American flag across the country. He's loud, theatrical, unapologetically New York, and very blue-collar American in personality. And I'm excited to have him back on the show for the Americana series this month. Tonight isn't about politics. It's about identity, symbolism, and the emotional connection people have to this country. Whether you agree on everything or not, art has a way of bringing people back to shared feelings. This Americana series is about celebrating the culture, creativity, and character that make America unique. Scott, welcome back to the show. What a great hour this has been so far.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this.
You have so much energy. It's infectious. I love it. And I do love, I think I told you this off air, I love your social media. Sometimes when I'm in a bad mood, I'll just go on your page and just watch. I'm like, what did Scott get into today? Who's he yelling at the camera today? I love it.
Well, most of it, if you watch, like even today I did my lessons with Uncle Scotty. I did one today. There's always, you bring humor in because you got to capture people. Again, it's about grabbing an audience, especially when you're an artist. And, you know, get them to laugh a little bit, and I'll sing a little song and get them to like, you know, and then all of a sudden I'll come in with the hard truth and hit you right in the face with the truth.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a whole, you know, like, let's see, he's cute, he's funny, he's going to do this. Oh, my God. And then it's like, oh, my God, did he just say that and do that? Yeah, okay, we understand, you know.
I think there should be a Broadway show about you.
I don't think so.
I think you should be the star of it, absolutely.
I don't think so. Thank you, but I don't think so.
Okay, is there an America you feel we're losing culturally?
It's America. It's, you know, again, like you just said a few minutes ago, politically, am I a political artist? Am I a conservative artist? Am I a MAGA artist? Whatever. I'm just an artist. All I want is balance. You know, people like, he's a I'm not a Republican. I vote Republican. I'm an artist. I have a lot of liberal tendencies. I believe in gay marriage. I'm this. I don't care what you do. You know, but keep children out of it. You know, I believe in immigration. But we have a system. You know, it's like just common sense. If the conservative movement was the one that was destroying this country, like I see it on the left, destroying this country right now, I would be doing the same exact thing for the other side, for the left. Exactly the same. Same passion, same energy, same expression, same art, same paint splatter, same sculptures to create a balance. You know, the whole cultural aspect of, you know, how do you lose the American culture when everybody has been coming here and it changes all the time, like Staten Island? There's a new group of people that are changing the you know, the demographics. The restaurants are changing. And it's like, you know, people are like, I can't believe it. I said, this is the nature of America. But what the issue is, those who come here and refuse to assimilate and try to change our culture. You add your culture to this culture, which makes it the American culture. You do not come here to change and force, you know, and that's what is happening. That's the danger, the non-assimilation.
Let's talk Staten Island a little bit, because I do love this borough. I am a Jersey girl, but I do get excited when I do my annual trip to Staten Island. It is
There's a lot more. This is once a year. It's kind of insulting, you know.
Sometimes
and you're
it's
from
twice.
Jersey, which is an extension. Staten Island is literally part of Jersey. If you look at the map.
Oh, I know this. Now, you grew up in Staten Island. What makes Staten Island different creatively from the rest of New York? Because it really is its own thing.
Yeah, it's its own entity. I mean, I when I travel the country many times, people, you know, like, what's the Staten Island? What's it like? I'm like,
The Rock, isn't that what they refer to it as?
The Rock, yeah. I said Staten Island is one of the 5 boroughs of one of the biggest liberal cities, but yet Staten Island is the exception. Staten Island is that little town in Wisconsin, in Wyoming, where the working class live. People that just live. You know, do we have an eccentric, creative culture on Staten Island? Yes, we do. Of course we do. Very good mixture.
Well, it depends on the neighborhood, right?
Yeah, but we get a bad rap for being just, you know, a bunch of knuckle dragging, you know, MAGA, rah, 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 you know, and it's not like that. I mean, oh, yeah, we are there, and I emphasize I am one of them, but it's a very special place in that aspect where, again, I love being part of New York City because I could just, here I am. I have a meeting right after this. I have to meet some friends. We talk about some art business we're working on, and then I go back to Staten Island, and I was like, this is where, you know, they get the cops and the firemen, and there's, you know, there's a benefit for this Fireman Foundation and the Tunnel to Towers Foundation helping the veterans, and we're out there, and it's, you know, it's rah, 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 it's, you know, and then, you know, and then I want to go to another part of Staten Island where it's a little eccentric, and it's creative, and there's an art thing going on. It's a unique place. It gets a bad rap, but hey, if that...
Everyone has to experience it.
Yeah.
Okay. There's some great restaurants there too.
Oh yeah. I'm going to come back on your show to talk about that.
Absolutely. All right. So it's the 250th anniversary of our country. What do you have in the works for this? Because I'm sure you're doing something over the top, spectacular. Can you talk about it yet?
Yes, actually, I could talk about it as of right now because they just got it confirmed. I was trying to figure out there's so much going on and what was I going to do and this. And I mean, every 4th of July is big for me. Every day to me is the 4th of July. If you know me, you know. But I just got confirmed there is the Great American State Fair that is going to be at the Washington Mall.
Wow.
Everything. You name it. Bands, cultural, all sorts of... Just it's going to be epic. It's like a World's Fair. It's the greatest World's Fair, but for America. And as a matter of fact, there's some people talking about it, that it's political, and some musicians are backing out. And I'm like, I'm not going there with Trump art or conservative. I'm going there to be honored for 3 weeks. I'm setting up this gigantic 10-foot by 19-foot canvas I'm having made with a frame, and I'm going to paint the greatest painting I ever did of an American flag, so detailed, waving in the wind. I'm going to be on a ladder, and I'm just going to do it live all day, every day for 3 weeks straight. And
how big is it going to be?
The painting is 10 feet high by 18 feet wide.
Wow.
But oils I'm using, like, this is going to be the most beautiful painting, and I'm just going to be there live every day. People can watch me, and I'm going to have a bunch of other paintings set up and some video screens showing my work. And I'm going to be with a ton, and it's like millions of people are going to be coming through for those several weeks.
That's going to be very exciting.
So I'll be there for all the events, the fireworks. There's I'm doing a couple of speed paint performances. I'll be on stage. It's going to be spectacular.
It's a good
really
thing we
excited.
got you while we did on this show because you're going to be out
I'm
of pocket for a while.
I'm already setting up. I have to build a canvas. I have to rent this and buy that and get the supplies and get my team together and stuff because I want.
Do you
this
have
to
a
be,
team?
Yeah,
I just thought it was just you and the canvas.
No, me and the canvas. But I'm saying we have to bring everything. We have to ship
Okay.
everything. I have to load everything and unload and set everything up. So I got a crew that helps me with that. And then they're gone, and then it's just me.
Do you listen to any music when you're painting?
I do. I
What
listen
is it?
to everything and anything from classical to opera, classical rock, 40s, 50s, 60s, blues, R&B. I listen to some hip hop. I listen to whatever
Renaissance.
I feel like it. But the thing I listen to most is classical music because there are no words. And sometimes when you're trying to concentrate, you hear a song and, oh, that reminds me of this girlfriend. Oh, that reminds me when I did that. Oh, I remember when I used to get stoned and I was with these guys. It's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when it's classical,
Memory
it's
lane.
just music. There's just instrumental. So there's nothing to distract you. So that's why I listen to classical.
I love it. Scott, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. This was it was a little different for me, right? Because we normally talk food here. But I told you, I was like, I have to get Scott LoBaido on the show. So I texted Sal. I'm like, you got to hook me up with Scott, please. And he was like, done.
Yep. Sal, that plays because I get a lot of Scott coming on my podcast on it, and I can't do it all, but Sal said, you got to do it. I'm here.
I know. I owe him everything. He's the man. America has always been a living canvas, complicated, evolving, loud, beautiful. And artists like Scott help capture that story in real time. Scott, thank you for joining the show tonight and keep painting in red, white, and blue. We have to take a break, but when we get back, we'll be joined by real American cowboy, Kent Rollins. Stay tuned. You're listening to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates on AM 970 The Answer.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 55 East 59th Street, New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
Welcome back to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates on AM 970, The Answer.
Welcome back to Culinary Confidential. Tonight's Americana series is all about patriots and cowboys. And I don't know if there's anybody alive today who represents authentic cowboy culture quite like Kent Rollins. Not movie set cowboy, not Yellowstone cosplay cowboy. I mean the real thing. Chuck wagons, open fire cooking, ranch life, horses, cast iron, faith, tradition, the American West. Kent literally was raised along the Red River in Oklahoma, working cattle with his father before becoming one of the most recognizable cowboy cooks in America. He eventually bought an 1876 Studebaker chuck wagon and dedicated his life to preserving a way of life most people only read about in history books. Kent, welcome to the show. This is so exciting for me. I've never met a cowboy before.
Well, thank you so much, ma'am. It is an honor to be on. And happy birthday, America. 250 years to celebrate. Don't get no better than that.
That's right. That's exactly right. Where in the world are you these days, Kent?
Well, right now on the road, but we live in New Mexico now, north of Ruidoso, New Mexico. But we stay busy if we're not filming at home. We're on the road a lot with the new series we have on the Outdoor Channel. We're currently filming the 3rd season already, so we'll be in Montana by the end of the week on 2 different ranches up there. So it's a busy lifestyle, but I have the best view out my kitchen window every day.
I love it. I've never been to Montana. I have some family there, and what do they call it? Big sky country?
Yeah, there is a big sky in Montana.
I love it. Okay, let's start our conversation here, Kent. What's the most misunderstood thing about authentic chuck wagon cooking?
Well, I think people have seen way too many movies, to where everybody's just at an old chuck wagon. There's the grumpiest cook in the world, and he's pouring up coffee that's not fit to drink, and beans is all they ever get to eat. We carry on that tradition the same that the old cooks did going down the cattle drive tales in the 1870s, 1880s. We just have a whole lot more to work with than he did. Back then they were feeding 2 meals a day, and a lot of it was coffee and beans, biscuits, dried meat, but we feed 3 meals a day now, me and my wife Shannon, and we try to feed cowboys better than anybody else. It's a way of life that people say, hey, there's not many of y'all left. And I said, well, you just can't see us from the interstate. We're off the beaten path. A lot of times there's no phone service, which is good, and GPS won't get you there either. So it is good to be remote. So
what are some of the things you're cooking?
Well, our days on a ranch always start early. Usually get up about 2:30 every morning.
2:30.
Get a fire built, go to boiling coffee. Then it's time to make bread. We have biscuits or fresh bread 3 times a day, and bread's got to rise. So it's always right after the coffee. And a lot of times for breakfast, we'll do the traditional bacon, eggs, gravy, biscuits. Sometimes it's sausage, breakfast burritos, breakfast casserole, sourdough cinnamon rolls, donuts. Whatever anyone can cook in the house, we can cook outside. Depending on the day, the Cowboys leave before it gets light. We'll see them somewhere close to lunch. Might not be 12 o'clock sharp because a cow never owned a watch, and she don't really care what time it is. She don't care if they get to eat or not. But we'll feed them at lunch, and then at supper time, we go all out. We have a lot of steak, chicken fried steak. You have a homemade dessert twice a day. You still have hot bread every night, too, for supper. And then you throw in a bread pudding with a whiskey cream sauce or a peach cobbler with maybe a little rum marinade that goes on top of it. So we try to feed them good, and they become family. Because when you're somewhere, the longest I've ever spent on a ranch was 6.5 weeks feeding cowboys. And you get to know them, each and every one, and they become like family, and it's our job to take care of them.
Wow, you guys really are cooking like amazing food out there.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear of these other cowboys? They have a reality show called the McBee Family Dynasty. I think they're out in Missouri.
Yeah, I've heard of them. I don't know them, but I have heard of them.
You should take a tour of Missouri and start cooking for them. Okay, you often talk about gathering around the table. Why do you think shared meals are such an important part of American culture?
Well, it's how we were raised, how tradition started. You gather around the table, and we were raised poor like everybody else was in my country at the time, but we had 3 meals a day. We sat at the table, we held hands, we blessed the food, and my mother would tell me, it's not the legs of the table that hold it up, it is the people that is gathered around it.
I love that.
And there's so many times you go in a restaurant or anywhere, there's more people holding a cell phone today than there is a fork and a knife.
That's right.
And if people would just get back to simple times and let's get everybody gathered at the table, ask people what went on in their day. What's going on with you, I think that's what America needs, because it get back to really the true culture and history that we started with.
I love it. I love that so much. And I think about this often because I know I'm guilty of it sometimes in my own house. With my 2 boys, I have my cell phone in my hand sometimes because I'm busy doing stuff with the show or whatever. And I have to make more of an effort to just put it down, put it away till after they go to bed, really connect, So thank you for that inspiration. All right. You did mention the chicken fried steak a couple of minutes ago. You beat Bobby Flay with chicken fried steak, which I feel like is the most American sentence ever spoken. Did life change for you after that?
Nah, my life don't hardly ever change, ma'am. I change socks about once a week. That's about it. But there was a lot that went into that. I didn't know he was coming. And when he showed up, welcomed him to the land of hot and heavy, because everything I got is hot and most of it's heavy, being cast iron. So we taught Bobby that there's more to life than just cooking in an enclosed environment.
That's right. The seasonality of your ingredients, even being in the open air. What did he take away from that experience with you, do you think?
I think his number one thing was he didn't want to come back. It was 98 degrees before we ever built a fire. And he told me off camera, he said, you got to be a fool to do this. He said, because this is the hottest place I've ever been in my life.
Wow.
And I looked at him and I said, it's job security, Bobby. Nobody else wants it.
That's funny.
But, he was a pretty good sport, but I know he was glad to get in an air-conditioned vehicle and leave.
I'm sure. I don't disagree with him. Ranch life isn't for everybody.
No.
If Hollywood made a movie about you, who do you think would play you?
Ooh. I would say maybe Robert Duvall would have been the best.
Or even Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, or Clint. He's some of the old time people. James Arness from many years ago. Ken Curtis, who was Festus on Matt Dillon. But I would be honored if it would have been some of them.
Absolutely. Okay, let's talk cast iron for a second because people are very passionate about cast iron cookware. Why does cast iron feel symbolic of cowboy cooking itself?
Well, first of all, we got to remember it's been around longer than any of us. And if properly taken care of, it'll outlive us all. But when I think of cast iron, I think of all them old chuck wagon cooks that went down the trails before me. And they had it, and they used it, and it was good enough for them, and it always got the job done. So they really, in a way, passed that on down to me, their heritage, their way of life, and I get to preserve that history one meal at a time every time I cook out of it.
And it's very specific how you care for cast iron, right? Like, don't you have to season it afterwards or, like, put some oil in it to really cure it and not use soap?
No, I don't use soap in any of mine. Soap, that's something that's changed over the years. Many years ago, it was lye soap, and it was really hard on cast iron. There's a lot of people that do use soap on theirs. I don't. My cast iron, some of it's well over 100 years old.
Wow.
It was handed down to me generations before. I've got enough cast iron to probably sink the Titanic again. Shan won't let me buy no more, but you treat it like it's family, because it's giving you something every time. So all it takes is a little care, and that's just a good cleaning, a good hot fire, and a good seasoning oil. I really like to use beef tallow when I season with, or grapeseed oil or avocado oil, because they have a high smoke temp. They bond to cast iron well. Cast iron has got a bad rap for years about it being too heavy. But really, that's saving you money because that's heat retention. You can turn the heat down, and you're not using as much fuel to get it there.
Good point. That's a very good point. Okay, what's the hardest lesson ranch life has ever taught you?
Well, it teaches me every time I go out there, but the hardest one is you can think you might have plan A, B, and C. You better have plan X, Y, Z, and then open the dictionary and look for some more, because Mother Nature is in charge. I've been rained on, I've been nearly blowed away, hailed on, been in 20 below cooking, been in 116 cooking. The harshest thing is always the environment, because you never know what's going to happen. And usually if it does, it's right about the time you want to get ready to cook it or about the time you serve it.
All right, so what do you do if there's a huge storm coming, there's a tornado warning, and you're about to put out the meal?
Well, you just tell them, hey, eat quick and find a hole to get in, I've never been one of them people that always prided myself. My dad told me, if you hang a shingle out there, it's got your name on it that says you're a cook, you better be able to cook in anything, anytime. Well, if they can cowboy in it or be horseback, I can cook in it. Sure, we've had times where it's blowed everything away that we had. Knocked down tents, teepees, tables, blowed cast iron plumb off tables, But you just regroup and you go on. Every day in life is a challenge, and that's a great thing. But if it doesn't change you or you don't learn something from it, you wasn't paying attention.
You've spent years cooking for ranches and working ranches in Texas, New Mexico, Colorado, and beyond. What does feeding cowboys teach you about toughness and simplicity?
I think the thing that stands out to me the most is it's changed in a lot of ways, but in so many ways it's still the same as it was in the 1870s and the 1880s. There's still a chuck wagon that's being pulled by a team of horses that's setting up camp and feeding cowboys 3 meals a day. But it's still them same cowboys out there using the same equipment that they started with so many years ago. Sure, they have nicer saddles. They got better ropes. They have better conditions sometimes. But they're still doing the job that the same cowboys did 100 years before. So we all get to recreate something that's a passion to us, something that we believe in, and we get to live it every day. There was an old man on a ranch told me a long time ago, and I always believe it. Don't be the one who reads the story. Be what the story is about.
Oh, I like that so much. What does the next generation look like? Like, who do you pass the baton to at some point to continue this legacy?
There for a long time, I was thinking there was a lot of chuck wagon cooks out there, but I don't see a lot of young ones out there, and I hope that some do step up. I know some young guys that are cooking that want to maybe be a chuck wagon cook. But you get to thinking about it on some of them remote ranches and you're there 6 weeks. Sure, it's a hard life, but it is It's probably one of the biggest blessings I ever had, to really get back to the grace of God, to what he gave me a talent to do, but to get to see the things that I get to see. I just hope that somewhere down the line, there'll be someone still hooking up a team to a wagon, making the same tracks on them roads that we have.
Oh, that's so sweet, Kent. We need an apprenticeship program here. We need to keep this alive. I mean, it's not going to be me or Ryan Pagano here, but we will find you someone, I'm sure. Okay, Kent Rollins reminds us that Americana isn't just fireworks and flags. It's values, hard work, hospitality, stories, family, and tradition, and gathering around a table with people you love. In a world moving faster every day, there's something powerful about someone preserving a slower, more grounded piece of American life. Kent, thank you for carrying that torch and for joining us tonight on Culinary Confidential. I really am so inspired by you.
Well, thank you, ma'am. And as always, I tip my hat to all our servicemen and women and all the veterans that have kept that old flag flying for us in this freedom. And we live in the greatest country ever. Happy birthday, America.
Absolutely. Well said. I'll talk to you soon, Kent. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for listening to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates, Sunday nights at 9 p.m. on AM 970 The Answer. What a night this was. From patriotism through art with Scott LoBaido to the enduring spirit of the American cowboy with Kent Rollins, tonight's Americana series reminded us that the story of America has always been built by people willing to stand for something. Creators and builders, risk takers, storytellers, people who preserve tradition while still pushing culture forward. And whether it's through a paintbrush, a chuck wagon, a family recipe, or simply gathering people around a table, these conversations matter because they remind us of who we are. Thank you to Scott LoBaido, and thank you to Kent Rollins, and thank you to all of you listening across New York City and around the world on the Culinary Confidential podcast. And don't miss next week's installment of the Americana series. It's the final show in the series, and my new friend, Noah Rothbaum, is back on the show, and we're diving into one of the most fascinating eras in American history, Prohibition. Think speakeasies, bootleggers, underground cocktail culture, the rise of American whiskey, and how one constitutional amendment changed the way America drinks forever. It's history, hospitality, rebellion, and culture all wrapped into one incredible conversation. Until then, I'm Christina Cates, and this has been Culinary Confidential. Thanks for listening, and have a good night.
The preceding program is sponsored by Shake It Off Live, LLC.
In a world that screams for your attention, there is a place that invites you to peace. You don't need a building. You don't need a choir. You just need to turn your heart to Air One.
Air One, songs that heal, lyrics that pray for you when you don't have the words.
From Lauren Daigle to Elevation Worship and more.
This isn't just radio. It's worship for the everyday.
Escape the noise and worship now.
Download the Air One app. Ask your smart speaker to play Air One or visit air1.com. Air One, worship now.